Welcome to another episode of the Financial Armor Show. My name is Jose Rodriguez, investment advisor here at Cooper Financial, and your host for today, alongside my co-host Jaclyn. How you doing, Jaclyn?
I am fantastic. Jose, it's always great to see you, and it's great to be back on the podcast with you. I have to let our listeners know that there's some exciting news in your life,
Yeah.
and I think we need to share it. I know you're not wanting to, but you need to share it.
No. Actually, last time I did talk about that. I think it was just in the beginning stages. Last time I was on the show that
Mhm.
I was going to buy a house, and totally forgot that I brought it up on the podcast. And then a client came in, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, congratulations on the house!" And this is a client I haven't talked to in like a couple months, and I was like, "How'd you know?" I was like, "Well, you said it on the podcast." I was like, "Oh, great. Thank you for watching the podcast." No, yeah, I should be getting the keys either today or tomorrow. And then as soon as I get the keys, I want to take about 2 to 3 weeks to move in. And I'm just going to do remodeling stuff. I'm going to make my garage into a home gym. I'm going to paint the walls black, and I'm going to put LED lights on the ceiling. And then I have a whole power rack that I'm going to put in there. Uh, and it's going to be pretty awesome. I'm trying to make it into my dream home.
Yes. Oh,
Needs a little love, though.
we just need a moment. Need a moment? Yep. This is so exciting. I am so happy for you. I mean, seriously, the glow on your face and just the excitement and the goals that you have with the house. We even talked about just the initial money aspect of it and how it's a
Hmm.
little shocking.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, you're investing in your future, and that's what's important. And I'm so excited for you.
Thank you, thank you. And actually, I guess talking about the house, it kind of goes in hand with today's topic a little bit. And because today's topic is essentially, I was reading an article by I think that the publisher is Kiplinger. I think that's how you pronounce that. But essentially, the title of this article is "The Smart Way to Retire: 13 Habits to Steal from the Wealthy." Now, I'm not gonna go and spend a whole hour going through all 13 points, but I sectioned them off into some essentially my couple main points that I think throughout my experience as a financial planner, I think I've noticed, and also not as a financial planner with clients, but also in my personal life and people that just haven't retired yet. Just what actually works, essentially,
Hmm.
because I think about it also from a working out perspective. In the health industry, there's so many diets you could do, so many diets. But if there's not a single diet that you can stick to, then it's not going to work. You have to find the right diet for you, so you can stick to it. And the same thing in financial planning. You have to find the right plan that fits you. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to follow it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And I'll just kind of reference for our listeners and viewers that, this comes from a Kiplinger article, which is very well known. But this, again, these habits might not work for you. They're not let's do it, let's put everything, towards these habits, and our finances are going to figure themselves out.
yeah.
That's not the reality. There is no quick fix to things. And I think what you said, Jose, about diets and stuff, people want a quick fix. But in
Hmm.
reality, finances and diets, there's no quick fix. You got to
Hmm.
create habits for yourself over time, baby steps that will eventually get you the goal and get you where you want to be.
Exactly. I mean, what one biggest example that I can think of that is happening also in my life. I started this year with wanting to drop 20 pounds. Uh, so I'm started out the year at 205 pounds,
Okay.
and I want to get to about 185,
Wow.
185 pounds. Okay.
Okay.
Um, and and I've had this goal for a very long time, by the way. And uh, you know, watching a bunch of videos online and all these things, you have to get up at 4 in the morning and work out for 2 hours, and you have to
Yes.
eat nothing but broccoli and chicken with
And
no
protein shakes.
sauces. What's that? And protein shakes.
Yes.
And you have to do it all, and that's the only way you can do it. Well, I tried that. man, trying to get up at 4:30 in the morning. I used to be able to do it. There was a time in my life that I was able to do that.
Mhm.
But nowadays, cannot do that. I cannot wake up at 4:30 in the morning and go work out
Mhm.
first thing. So I changed a couple of things that I thought were essentially transformational for me. I
Mhm.
just switched from morning to afternoon working out. I work out at night from 8 to 9:30. And then my whole life, my whole eating habits, I just turned from eating regular sugar to sugar-free things or
Mhm.
fat-free things, and then
Mhm.
just eating a bunch of meat.
Yeah.
But essentially, the point of me bringing that up is because I adapted to something that I can follow and be
Mhm.
consistent. Because now, and you have to just find that thing that you're going to be able to follow and stay consistent. And that's actually the first point that we need to make.
Yeah.
The wealthy uh, find consistency. They have consistency with their savings habits,
Mhm.
and that's how they can sustain it. They have to find the right plan so they can stick to it for a very long time, right? And it might take some tweaking in the beginning. Might not, you might not get it right the first time, but like just like I didn't get it right the first time. I have to make some tweaks so make sure that I can stick to the plan, right?
Yeah, and I just wanna, say, I think it's about routine,
Hmm.
and the hardest part, I think, about, working out in your case, Jose, it's trying to find a routine that works for you, and then as soon as you get into the cycle of the routine, it will come more naturally, and in this case, retirees, or most wealthy people, they create a routine for themselves that it becomes just second nature.
Hmm.
It's not something that they think about, it's something that they automatically do.
Right. And sometimes people need the guidance on the beginning part of setting the structure of okay,
Mhm,
what kind of saving strategy do I need to do, and how is that going to look like for me so I can stick to it,
mhm,
right? And sometimes it's not that's I think the hardest part for some people that I've talked to is just setting some kind of structure. There's some million ways to split off your income and revenue that comes into your bank account. There's the 10/30, for 60 splits, but regardless of what split that is, I always start with the 20/60/20, right? It's just to get a baseline of 20% savings, 60% fixed expenses, and 20% fun money.
mm,
And it doesn't mean that that has to be what you start off with, but it's just a good starting point, and then we adjust it of how your life is like.
mhm,
But and then within that, let's just keep using that 20/60/20 split. The way you have to think about it is is that you have to pay yourself first,
mhm,
as in your 20% that you committed to saving each month, that has to go into the savings bucket before anything else. And
mhm.
then you can, pay your bills. And supposedly, if you did everything the way it's supposed to happen, you should have 20% left to do all the fun stuff you want to do. Right. That is a way that in my life, and actually majority of the people that I've talked to that are, in their 30s and 40s, they found that to be very sustainable for the
Mhm,
most part. There might be a little bit tweaks up and down on some of these percentages, but it is something that it has allowed me to stick to things, because some people, they need to be told that they can have some fun with their money. So that there's two extremes. There's
That's
two
me.
extremes, right? There's people that save too much and then they just feel like they can't do anything, and then there's people that don't save enough and then they just waste too much money. But there's a happy medium. As long as you give yourself a budget to have fun, go buy some things, go buy some clothes, go out to eat, whatever it is. You have a budget, right?
Yeah,
Um,
but Jose, budget is my least favorite word. Okay. I I say 0, I think my mom did my laundry the other day, which she offered to do, just keep in mind. And she goes, "You really need some new clothes." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she goes, "Your clothes are, like, getting old." She goes, "You are wearing out your clothes." And I was like, "Yeah, well, I don't wanna go buy new clothes. And, that's not within my budget. That's not my spending." And she just basically told me, "Yeah, that's not an option at this point. You need new clothes." So, there's extremes to that too.
Yeah. Yeah. And and I think because again, you need motivation to do some of these things, right? And stay consistent.
Mhm,
So how do you get that motivation, right?
mhm,
And this is what I always say. Uh, with big goals come with big goals come with big sacrifices, right?
mhm,
So if you want to accomplish something that is really big, really amazing in your life, you have to make some big sacrifices.
mhm,
So before you even start creating this saving strategies, this plan that you want to stay consistent to, you have to know your why. Why am I even doing this? Because if you don't have one, you just aimlessly saving every month, and at any moment, just because you have no why, you're gonna stop,
mhm,
right? So for me, for example, like I said, how is it all gonna tie into the house? Is that it's been my goal to buy my first house for a very long time,
mhm,
right? And so I've always been looking at that when I'm saving every month. I want this house. I want this house. And then when the time came, I was ready for it, right?
mhm.
And now I'll move on to the next goal, and things like that. But you always have to have something to look forward to. So that
Yes.
is the third point. The first point was consistency. Find the plan that you can stick to. Second point, pay yourself first. And the third point so far is set goals, because
Mhm.
you got to know your why. Why
I
are
like
you doing all this? Okay.
Absolutely. And that's with every goal. I mean, not
Right.
just finances, but with any goal, it's whether it's a new job or, your weight or your lifestyle, whatever it is, you mentally set goals for yourself. So what's the difference between mentally setting it and writing it on paper and saying, "I'm
Yeah.
going to accomplish this amount of
Yeah.
money," or whatever, right? You're just
Yeah.
adding a tangible number to this
Yeah.
goal.
100%. Uh, and now comes the um, fourth point that I think it's almost harder to talk about because some people it might hit their ego a little bit.
Okay.
But here it is. You don't. Some people, actually, everyone. This applies to everyone. You don't know what you don't know. Shocker.
Okay, what do you mean by that,
So
Jose?
what I mean by that is, I know a lot of things about financial planning and investments and all things like that because this is my career. I'm supposed to know all these things, right?
Mhm.
But most people out there that have their own jobs about their own stuff, you know, they don't have but they might. I mean, they can do their own research online, but they might not have all of the details because there's so much misinformation out there on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook,
Yes.
YouTube, all of the above. So if I'm thinking to myself, if I was not in this field and when I want to be what I thought I was going to be a financial analyst. That's what I studied
I
for.
thought you were gonna say engineer.
Well, it is. It's called data engineering.
Okay. Well,
So
then I was close.
but so if I went on to that in my let's say engineering career, and my focus is to get better at my engineering job, let's say I don't have the time to really follow all the rules on new IRA rules, new
Mhm.
Secure
Yes.
Act 2.0 rule, and then what's the next new tax or lack of tax that is
Mhm.
coming up? There's all these little curveballs that the IRS loves to throw, uh, that just people just don't have the time to follow, uh, and that's where we come in. Where I
Mhm.
think everyone should have an advisor, uh, that can at least let them know where the blind spots are.
I think that's a really great point, and not only in finances, but in everything, it's important to utilize an expert and to also notice when you're not an expert,
Yeah.
and letting people who are experts take over. You hear about, yes, YouTube University, right? YouTube University can sure tell you a lot, but at the end of the day, if you're gonna do your own plumbing, it could really turn out to be a disaster. You
Oh,
know?
yeah.
It's
Tell me
not
about it. I'm scared to that. I can't wait for a just some pipe to burst in my new house, and now that
Yes,
I am responsible for that. I am not
yes.
touching that with a 10-foot pole. I'm calling somebody.
Exactly. So it's talking about, the time, right? Time is money. That's what I like to
Mhm,
say. The time that you're spending doing it, the tools that you need to buy to do it, if something goes wrong, you're not going to be able to know how to fix it, right? It's so much easier to just pay an expert, have
mhm,
an expert out there. It's so much easier sometimes. And I'm not saying all the time, but I think with finances and plumbing, maybe electricity,
mhm.
some stuff like that, you should
Yeah.
consider paying an expert.
Yeah, and essentially, people are, oversimplify certain things, in my opinion.
Mhm,
I think they, especially in the investment world, they think, returns are everything,
mhm,
right? And what I always say is a rate of return is not going to fix all your problems, but people usually think that,
mhm,
uh, because, and what I mean by that is, yeah, returns are great, but what good is a 10% return if half of it is going to the IRS anyway,
mhm.
right? So I'm just thinking that is not how I would go about things. And thankfully, me being so young, I can save myself a lot of the mistakes a lot of people make.
Mhm.
with when just so you know, something that I'm currently doing, I'm not touching an IRA with a 10-foot pole. Not I'm not touching that. I'm going straight tax free everything for the most part.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's something that if anybody that is, early stages of accumulating for retirement, that's what I would focus on. I'll focus on tax free because tax free is your friend. Tax free money grows faster than any other money
Hmm.
because it's tax free. And yeah, it's just one of those things, avoiding the problems before they get here. Um,
Yes.
Majority of people, I feel like they get confident with the growing of their money, and then when they get to the point, the accumulation phase is probably the easier one, and then
Mhm.
once you get to the distribution phase, it's like, oh crap, I just realized I digged myself into a hole,
Yes.
and and now I have to deal with the consequences of paying taxes forever,
Mhm.
or it's really costly to get myself out of this hole now. So you don't realize, some people don't realize the mistakes they're making just because they're making good returns. But
Yeah.
then that's going to come back and bite you when it comes to distribution phase. Um,
Yes.
so
Well,
yeah,
and
that's something I would like to
taxes
make people aware of.
yeah, and taxes are definitely the number one hidden thing that people forget about when it comes to retirement. And so it's
Hmm.
so important, especially taxes. I mean, now we're kind of going down a different rabbit hole here,
Yeah.
but I mean, at the end of the day, consult a financial advisor, a fiduciary, where they can discuss taxes with you in retirement because you don't want it to take over all of your income that you will, you know, hopefully be receiving. And it kind of brings me to a point here on the article is, it talks about overspending early in retirement. And
Hmm.
when you talk about taxes and all that, it could just be a lot of your income could be wiped without you
Yeah.
even really knowing it.
Yeah.
And then that adds so much stress later on.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously, because if you have nothing but taxable income, then the more income you need, or the more income you want to go and spend on your fun things on your early go, go, go years. Let's say you need $20,000, or let's say you need $10,000 to live your
Mhm.
amazing lifestyle that you worked your whole life for. But to get your $10,000, you need to take out 20
Mhm.
because taxes.
Yep.
And then now you're 65, and now you have to pay IRMAA, so add that on top of everything.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
and
it's
that could
almost
really eat away.
absolutely, and it's almost like, we talked about routine earlier, right? And you can create a routine for yourself now while you're in the accumulation phase, towards retirement. Create a routine for yourself to live below your means, that
Mhm.
you can not again, my least favorite word, budget, But, have a budget for yourself and live below those means that then it'll become a routine for when you enter retirement.
Yeah, and I think most people, because I think a lot of people do hate that word and budget, uh, because when I bring it up to some people, they're just I can see the disgust in their face. But I, but I would say majority of the time that I make people budget, they're surprised by the outcome. They
Yeah.
are surprised. Oh, this wasn't that bad. And actually, some people are like, "Wow, I can spend this much more money. I don't have to save this much anymore." Those kinds of things. And it's a big light bulb moment in
Mhm.
in in people's planning process, which I think is really interesting. And especially in the first go years, we can expect, we can plan for the more the period of your life, or your retirement, that you're going to spend more, right? And then it's gonna face out probably, unless there's some long-term care moment, and then that uh, expenditure really increases after that. Um, but it's all about creating a plan,
Mhm.
creating a plan, so that way you can spend this much money in the early years.
Yeah.
Knowing that really gives people a good peace of mind,
Yeah. A
and at
sense of
least we know.
ease for sure. And just, retirement is one of the biggest things that, you know, transitions that you'll go through in life, right? And so
Yeah.
there's a lot of questions that are going to be up in the air.
Hmm.
And when you plan intentionally with purpose, with keeping those goals in mind,
Hmm.
I think in working with a financial advisor will really help bring it all into a strategic plan that's personalized and individualized for you.
Mhm. Yeah, again, be careful with those YouTube universities and Google and all of those things. Have you
Yes.
and let's use another analogy here, because have you ever heard of those people uh that get a headache, and they go look up on Google their symptoms, and then
Yes.
they just start crying, "Oh my gosh, I'm
Oh,
gonna
cancer.
die. I'm having a brain aneurysm or something," right? So it's just funny because Google just bends the truth a little bit,
Mhm.
so it doesn't something might be looking something up and it doesn't really apply to you, but it's not wrong, but it's not 100% right either. So
Mhm.
that's what some again, the point is, I just want to make sure people are careful with the information there that is out there. And some of it might be true, but it might not be 100% true in your context of your life. And
Yes.
that's why I think doing the research on your own is definitely good, because at least now when you come to a financial advisor, you have your questions ready. You
Yes.
kind of have a general idea of what's going on, and that's great. But again, if you look up on Google, how do I perform a surgery? I I would not do that. That's
Really?
probably
You
not a
wouldn't?
yeah. If you go ask ChatGPT, step by step, give me some steps on how to do heart to heart, open heart surgery. That
Mhm.
is not something that non-doctor, non-surgeon should do.
Mhm. Yeah,
That's all I'm
absolutely.
saying.
Well, I will say, and that's a great point, just being able to filter out the media is
Mhm.
a huge important, I guess, asset that you might have.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna lie, I have fallen for stuff on social media.
Mhm.
With AI now, they can create pictures that you think look real, but they
Yeah.
aren't,
Yeah.
and I've definitely fallen for it, but I
Mhm.
will tell you, I'm not gonna fall for online financial advice. I
Oh
will
my
tell you
gosh, there's so much bad one. Oh my,
that.
it is scary, as me as a professional in this industry. It
Mhm.
is scary, and it's almost like TikTok and Instagram knows that I do
Oh,
this for a living, and they
100%.
just will try to rage bait me, as in this is
Yes.
just completely wrong, and I'm just trying to piss you off. Uh, but
Yes, absolutely.
yeah.
Well, anything else that you wanna add before we close out today's episode?
No, it's just that I think doing your own research, stay consistent, create a plan that you can stick to,
Mhm.
and create your why, set some goals, and that you can look at and write down, so you know your why of why you're saving this much every month, because it is going to be a sacrifice.
Yeah.
And be humble enough to know that you don't know what you don't know, and go seek
Yeah.
help for a professional. That's what
Yeah.
that's the main things that I would like people to get out of today's show. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Jose, that's amazing points. And this has been a fantastic episode. And I just want to reiterate, baby steps, right? I
Mhm.
mean, start small. And if it means calling Jose, and trying to, and get that complimentary consultation, that's just a baby step, start
Mhm.
somewhere. So Jose, how can they reach you?
They can give us a call at 888-390-5277, or go to our website, financialarmorshow.com.
Well, perfect. All right, Jose. Well, thank you for having me on today. And that does it for this episode of Financial Armor with our host, Jose Rodriguez.
See ya.